Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks an idea of what's going on locally. And today we're going to talk about something very important to the community. We're talking about the library's plans to create a strategic plan. Strategic plans sometimes end up being a book that a lot of people work on. It goes into a loose leaf binder and on a shelf someplace. But my guests today are going to tell us what they're going to do with that and also how you can participate in it. So with me is...
Hi, I'm Kathy Fox Alfano, and I am currently the Vice Chair of the Jonathan Bourne Public Library Board of Trustees.
And I'm Irja, the Library Director at the Jonathan Bourne Public Library.
Now, you're the worker and she's the policy maker, right?
In some ways, yes.
Okay.
We do a lot of work.
Now, why do we need a strategic plan?
Well, we need a blueprint of where do we see library services going in the future, who are we serving, who are we not serving, and every 3 to 5 years it's a good idea to refresh and determine, are we on the right path? Another important thing of a strategic plan is it's required by the state. In order to be eligible for state aid, which averages about $38,000 per year, you have to have a current strategic plan on file and an action plan once a year that meets that strategic plan. So hopefully, Bill, ours won't be on the shelf.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what is an action plan.
Okay, an action plan is once we've completed the strategic plan and we determine 3 of the top goals, how are we going to get there? For example, say that people say we work, we can't get to the library during the hours that are available, or we don't want to deal with bridge traffic. Could we have Sunday hours? So an action plan would be, would we investigate how we could do that with collective bargaining? What types of programs would we offer? How many hours would we offer? And then make steps towards that if that's the #1 goal determined by the Board of Trustees. This is their document, and my job is to implement it.
Well, one of the concerns that, that I have is that when you talk about accessibility for off hours, a younger group of our community actually has a job that occupies the same time that the libraries are open. And I've noticed that some communities do have Sunday hours, which is, that's when people, they might go to church, and after they go to church, they go to the library and pick up a book or something like that.
Yes.
And I thought that was very good. Also Saturdays, and of course I'm going to ask you a question immediately. Is
okay.
Why did you cancel Saturdays for the summertime?
We found that statistics based on what our circulation was and our door count, that we only had foot traffic between 9 and 11 on Saturdays, yet we were open 9 to 5. We just didn't feel it was cost effective to remain open.
It's only the summers that it's closed.
No,
when the traffic is the worst.
When the traffic is, right,
Yeah.
Most people are on the beach. So, or have company or whatever. They're not usually coming to the library. But we will reopen when schools reopen. So we're using the school calendar for that.
Yeah, and I've observed that a lot of tutoring goes on in the library.
Yes.
Because I do visit the library.
You're a regular.
Yeah, I'm a regular because I'm a cheapskate. and the reason I'm recalling what my father used to tell me when I used to buy books. Why are you buying a book, Billy? You're supposed to be going to the library and get it for nothing.
It's not exactly nothing, but yes.
Okay, but my recollection of libraries started when I was growing up in Cambridge, and they had this wonderful Richardson design building that was between Cambridge High and Latin and Ridge Technical School. It was a beautiful building with enormous, to me, windows,
Nice.
these long tables, sunlight streaming through the place, and the feeling that when you went into this library, you could reach for a book, and the book would transport you to practically another world. And that was the kind of a feeling that I had in that library, not knowing anything more about it other than my mother's let's say advice about when you walk up and down Putnam Avenue to go to the library, make sure you walk on the other side of the street when you walk past the cult, that was on the street. But in any case, What is the Bourne Library like now?
I would view us more as a community center. COVID changed everything, and I was very new here. I started Halloween, and in March we were shut down. So I never really got a good taste of what summer was like here. What I noticed is that many people want a place to have meetings. And I don't mean formal town meetings, I mean meetings of the Bourne neighbors and newcomers, where a gathering place for community groups. Also a place to connect with like-minded people. So if we have a speaker or a book talk, we recently had retired Judge Curran come and give a talk on the Amistad trials, and he's coming back in the fall to discuss the Salem witch trials. Fascinating speaker, and people left feeling like they learned something. And you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch documentaries on TV. It's not the same as interacting, and I think that's the part that makes the library very relevant now, is it's more of a connection versus just pulling the book off the shelf. I think the mission of libraries has changed, and especially since COVID. We're also the gateway to technology. I know there's been a lot of talk about access with digital equity, that there are parts of Bourne that do not have decent internet. We loan hotspots. And if you're not familiar, a hotspot is an access point that has much more reliable connectivity. So if you're on a job interview on Zoom, or your child is trying to do remote schoolwork, you're going to come to the library for that device and check it out.
Well, I have checked those devices out, both here and over in Marion, and they are very reliable. And I have to say that it makes a big difference if you don't have what I would call reliable internet service to get that, let's say that confidence that you're not going to lose in the middle of it. Especially now, a lot of people are taking Zoom courses.
Yes.
Right.
And if you're taking a Zoom course, in the middle you lose your signal, you've lost the course.
Right.
And a lot of folks, are getting more and more dependent on it because we don't go to school anymore. We don't go to classroom schools. Right. We're relying upon these technology aids. Okay, so you're in the now. We've talked a little bit about an action plan. In other words, to implement whatever you decide. What is a strategic plan? What's the difference?
Go ahead, Kathy.
The strategic plan, let's start with how we're implementing or how we're getting information. First, we have 3 workshops. We've already had 2. We'll have another one on Thursday, July 27th from 10 to 12 at the community building. And people can still sign up. You don't even have to sign up, just come. And there we will be asking a series of questions to get people's, what are they thinking about in terms of what do they love about the library, what are our challenges, and what would you like to see in the future? Because that's what helps guide us to putting together a strategic plan. We also have a survey which you can take online, or there's hard copies at the library. We will show the QR code that you just take a picture with your phone. It'll take you directly to the survey. It'll take you, 5-10 minutes to fill out, but it is very valuable because we really want to get people's input about how they feel about the library, what they love, and what they don't love, and what they like to see, in the next 3 to 5 years or further out. But the workshop, like I said, I'm not sure when this will air, but that is sort of more intensive, but the survey will certainly give you a lot of information. Most of it is just check boxes, but there is room to write. If you have some ideas, we'd love to hear them. We, as trustees and as library staff, we really want to hear from people. Even if you don't use the library, we want to know why and what we can do to help. And we know that there are challenges with the fact that we have a split town. We have the canal in between, and the bridges can be a challenge and whatever. So we are looking for ways that we can make things better for everyone. And one thing I love about the library is that it's available to everyone, every age. Doesn't matter who you are, you're welcome at the library. And we want to make sure that we are helping all of the different groups, not just focusing on children or focusing on seniors. We want to make sure we can accommodate everyone and come up with some wonderful ideas. So this is one of the few times when you, the public, can really make a difference in what goes on at your library.
Ask me the questions.
The questions vary from where do you live, you know, because we'd like to see if everyone from Pocasset is answering, but nobody from Sagamore Beach. I mean, we need to, you know that. But then some of the questions are, what would you say?
Well, there's 3 categories.
Yes.
Well, yeah, now, I want you to ask me the 3 questions.
I will. Just there
there's
are
a
3
lot of
categories.
questions.
Yes.
There's maybe 30 questions.
Yeah.
So there's 3 categories: explore, engage, enjoy. And those are the 3 things that we're trying to find out in the strategic plan. How do you explore? Do you use our downloadables? That's one of the questions. Do you use our streaming video service? That's one of the questions. Do you check out a hotspot? Engage. Have you attended a music program? Have you attended a lecture? Have you attended one of our author talks that was remote with a very expensive speaker author that we could never afford on our own? When we did a collaborative with a few other towns, we each coughed up $3,000 to have this $15,000 speaker, which we would never be able to afford on our own. And then under enjoy, it's things that, what do you do outside of the library? So are you into outdoor fishing, cycling, gardening? Because we would want to tailor our programs towards those. So there's a checkbox of probably 45 items. What
Yes.
do you do in your fun
Yes.
time? That has nothing to do with books, nothing to do with literacy, but it's what do you do? And how can we support those hobbies and interests?
Although we could have, if say everyone says they love sailing, we could have more books on sailing, that sort of thing, as well as programming. So we are really trying to make the library what you want, not just what we think it should be.
One of the questions is, what do you feel is a barrier to service at the current library?
Well, I can say that, and I think I already mentioned it. You know, weekend. You know, let's say weekend availability. But then I also understand the fiscal need of making sure that you're not, let's say, overextending your assets and not putting them where they're most useful. So that, that's something that in time management, you as the manager of the library, have to figure out and then be able to defend it, because like all municipal activities, you have to go before a budget committee in order to support what you're trying to do, and you do need the statistics in order to support that, right?
Yes, and libraries live and die by statistics
I
and
hear that.
reviews. We haven't had an independent thought in years.
And that's a good
but
thing.
it is a good thing.
Now, when I was a county commissioner, I used to we used to have talks from librarians all over the country, and most of the library in other parts of the country are county libraries, and they also, because they're at a county level, they have access to more money and more, and more resources, and actually, in what I'd call more affluent communities, like the one I used to live in. I used to live in Wellesley. If you've ever been in that library,
I have.
It's a golden kind of a place,
Yeah. We have beautiful libraries here on Cape Cod too. Falmouth is beautiful, Mashpee. They're big, new, wonderful libraries.
And how
we do have, though, a community component to this in our CLAM system, where if you want a book that isn't available in Bourne, but it may be available in Hyannis, you can just put it in and it'll show up in a couple of days. Unless there's a waiting list, and then you have to wait. But it gives us access to all the different libraries, catalogs. So that's really so helpful. And that is sort of the community, county part of this.
Well, I got a book from Springfield, I think, at one point that that wasn't available, anyplace else. And I think you have access to the the Boston Public Library, as well. So that that resource is is very important for people who would like to read and don't want to. Mainly because my daughter, takes serious exception to the amount of books that I already have at the house. So,
Parsimonious as you are, yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, I do have a lot of books, and I do understand the wisdom of my father about when you read a book, Billy, how many times you're going to reread it, and why can't you get it out of the library? So I tend to collect a lot of picture books.
Okay.
Very fun to draw. Well, anyway, but okay. So my response to any question about what do I like most about the library is that when you came in, you ordered The Economist and the New York Times, and that
And
delighted my...
the New Yorker.
Well, I think you were getting the New Yorker then.
Okay.
But in any case, yeah, the New Yorker. And what do I, when I go to the library, I spend at least an hour reading the New Yorker for the funnies, and the
Yes.
Economist, you know, for Lexington, and let's say the American part where you get that viewpoint, because I think it was close to about $200 a year.
It's very expensive.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that I was so delighted when you did that. I do maintain my subscription to the New York Times, you know, because I do like to read it in the morning. But I'm so delighted that you get that along with the Wall Street Journal. So think about that. You've got both a liberal and a conservative point of view at the library, which is where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
definitely feel
we
that.
can agree to disagree on any number of political matters, but our job as librarians is to offer all viewpoints
Right.
and not guide someone. Make it all available. You use your independent thinking.
Right.
You read the article. You decide how you're forming your opinion.
I just wanted to also mention that the survey, the link to the survey, is also on the front page of the town Bourne Town website. So if you're looking,
Townofbourne.com.
Yeah, I've seen that,
townofbourne.com.
yeah.
So if people want to access it that way, they can do that. But it's due August 4th. So really
some of us
appreciate it.
better get off the dime and start
Yes.
responding
And
to it.
again, it will take you 5-10 minutes.
Okay, now,
but, yeah.
there are what, almost 20,000 people who live in this community?
That's right.
Okay, so of the 20,000 people, a statistically significant number would be about, according to survey stuff that I've gone through, sadly, it'd be about between 5 and 10%. How are you doing on response so far?
So the thing that we're looking for is over 150, because yes, we may have 20,000 people, but we only have 6,000 registered library cards, because you're not eligible for a library card until you're 6 years old. Then we have the seasonal residents as well. So we're hoping for 200, 250, anything over 150. I think the last time we checked before last evening's workshop, we were at about 125. So we have 3 more weeks.
Okay.
I've been shameless. If, for example, anecdotally, if someone came to the library and didn't have their library card, and they didn't pull the "Don't you know who I am?" I said,
Oh
well,
God, I love
hate
doing
that.
that.
So I said, "No, I don't." I said, "But do you have a license?" "Oh, well, is it okay?" And I said, "Well, just this time, however." So I checked this woman out, used her license, found her library card, and then I slipped a bookmark inside that had the QR code, and I said, "However, you are required to complete our survey." She laughed. So we've been pushing it to every single person. Every book that gets checked out, it's getting a slip. Some people are getting multiple emails. If you're a member of BNN and the Friends of the Library and the Rec Commission, you're getting 3 different emails. We're really saturating the market.
And it's on Facebook, on the Bourne residents. It's on Believe in Bourne. So
Posters in town,
yes,
buildings,
posters in town, yeah.
legal size. We're doing our best.
Right.
Dear heart, when I used to train salesmen, I was looking for somebody like you. And it was like, and by the way, not for nothing, there has been a change in the attitude with regard to, let's say, participation in work, and the things that you're talking about are something that seems to be sorely lacking in workforce. And talking to managers and owners, they're looking for people who will take that sense of urgency and that sense of we got to get this done, into the workplace. So I'm proud of you. I'm
Well,
delighted.
thank you.
I'm delighted that you're
It's a
doing
very aggressive schedule. So to back up a minute, every library, in order to maintain its certification, which means if you're from Wareham, you can borrow from us. If you're from Falmouth, you can borrow from us. In order to maintain that certification, you have to have an accepted strategic plan on file. So part of our process, the workshops are first, collecting and analyzing the data, compiling it, that's the ugly part for us. Preparing a rough draft, having a public meeting. Is this encapsulate what you wanted to hear from us? Is this the direction you thought we were going? Just to double check that did we have a bias when we heard it? And then finally, the select board will review it, the Board of Trustees will accept it, and we submit it to the state. They could still say, we didn't like your methodology, not a significant number of returns. There are still obstacles to not having it accepted. They do give you a period of time. I'm confident, based on the team that we have working on it. Shout out to the Assistant Town Administrator, Liz Harsgrove, has done an amazing job with creating the survey. She had experience and software that made this look very professional and made us look very good.
Yes.
I can't take credit for it. She really did a great job with that.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they call that interdepartmental cooperation.
Yes. And that is something that we really, really want to work on and make sure that all of Bourne feels that way.
Well, of course, those of us who unfortunately took too many statistics courses and understand, something about chi-squared and statistical significant numbers, as far as justification, there has been there should be more emphasis on, getting people to, let's say, to participate in the life of their community. And although I have Catholic guilt, that would basically say you got to do this because it's it's your responsibility to get something done. I wonder what kind of incentives you think that people need in order to participate in this, because to me the life of the community revolves around the library, because that is a public building that is open and available to everyone in the community if they would just use it. And also, one of the things that I wonder if the strategic plan might address is the idea that county libraries would be used for response and support of, let's say, catastrophic events where you would have long power outages, and it would be a gathering point because people in the library know more of the community than people in town hall, and it's a comfortable place to go. Now, is there anything in there that would help the library be self-sustaining, or address a self-sustaining issue as part of your survey?
We would love to get a generator, because
you don't have a generator?
Correct.
No.
Then how can you support the power outage needs in the community?
That is an excellent question, Bill.
Well,
how about the power outage needs of the library?
Yes.
Last week,
right.
There were so many brownouts. We were having a Zoom meeting. It was all over Bourne residents. We must have lost the power 11, 12 times in the course of an hour. Reboot. Just get it ready. Out. Reboot. Out. So there's an infrastructure issue that doesn't belong in our strategic plan, but perhaps town-wide.
Well,
but we would love to have the library be a center for a hurricane, or, like you said, if there's a power outage, whatever. We would love to have that.
I lived in Harwich for 30 years, and our library down in Harwich did have a generator, and especially we had some significant outages in the wintertime. People lost heat,
right.
And they were coming to the library to get warm, get a cup of coffee, gather with other people, and it seemed to be, beyond the books, beyond the DVDs, beyond the periodicals. It was a safety valve where you could come, see other people, commiserate, get warm, and at least have some sort of a relief during an interval is what's going on. So I'm astonished that the library doesn't have that support. Are there other?
It's in the works.
Well,
there's discussion. There's ongoing discussion.
Now the next thing, as far as the strategic plan goes, what are your plans for the building itself?
That will be part of it. As you know, at the last town meeting, there was a special town meeting. There was an article for a feasibility study put forward by the trustees and the town administrator to take a look at the building and say, what is what? Can we sustain the HVAC? Can it sustain the upgrades? Can the second floor, which is not ADA compliant, it's not accessible, is wasted space right now? Could we put stacks up there? Do we need to bring in I-beams? There's a lot of things that go into the major systems. I'm a librarian, not building science. So I'm leaving it to the experts to say, this library can be renovated for X amount, but at what point does it become too expensive to renovate and fix the existing systems versus maybe start new?
20 years ago, it cost the county $30,000 to put in an elevator, in the courthouse down in Orleans. So that's not a small, project, as far as going forward. Okay, now
Can I just back up 1 second? When I was a director in New Hampshire, which had multiple power outages, a lot of snow, we got the nor'easters. We were a heating, cooling, warming station, and we just would call it shared misery. And people would come in and charge their phones, and it was really almost bordered on fun, because no one was really there. So we set up board games. We had people playing cards. I said if there was any money, they had to donate it. And our Friends of the Library organization at this library had pizza delivered from the one place in town that had propane and could make pizza and deliver it. And it was, I hate to say it, it was fun. And it was nobody was dressed up, everybody was in their bean boots, and that fostered a sense of community that those people remembered when I went forward to the Finance Committee, when I went to town meeting and said, we want to do this initiative. They had a good feeling. It was worth their while to remember that positive interaction, and that's what I'm looking to build off the strategic plan with the trustees.
Well, I'm hoping that the community is listening to that, because it's something I totally agree with. Okay, now believe it or not, we're getting to the end of this. So one of the things that I'd like you to do is what kind of a takeaway do you want to have people, with regard to this particular program?
Please look at either the QR code or go on the town website and click on it on the survey, and please spend just a few minutes telling us what you like to see at the library. Anything from do you just want the books, or do you want a library of things? We've talked about having various things. So if you're not a reader, that doesn't mean you don't come to the library for something. So there's that. And there's just so many opportunities that we can explore, but we need your input, because otherwise it's just going to be us library geeks that make the decisions, and you don't want that.
Well, I do know that when I was in the Cape Light Compact, we did distribute watt meters, in order to measure the amount of electricity that different appliances use. Yes. And I think you still have that, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah. And let's see, there was we already mentioned the hotspot. So, and of course the the DVDs that you have are, and the music. I don't think people appreciate the amount of CDs that are available at the library.
Yeah. We have a beautiful telescope.
The telescope.
Yes, yes. And we want to start, we've gotten, did we get money at town meeting?
We received funding.
Yeah, so we wanted
$4,100 towards a library of things.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful, because there's an astronomical society in on the Cape, and a good friend of mine, Larry Brookhart, I think it was the was the one that put it in down in Harwich. So I'm sure that they're still active. Okay, now we're almost at the end.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think people should know besides show up, answer the questions, participate in the survey? Don't be a no-show, but be a participant.
I think you just need to stop in. See? There are many people who haven't come to the library since COVID. I can't testify to what it was like before, because I really wasn't here. I mean, it was literally 2 months, boom, COVID. Come and see some of the changes that we've done. With the layout, we've had more comfortable chairs, so your survey could say more comfortable chairs. Yeah. That was something, okay, that's an easy one. That's a couple of $1,000s. Just come.
And if they get time to kill, I know there's a continuing jigsaw puzzle. Of course, I'm sort of addicted to those.
Yes.
But, and there are some tough ones too.
The 1,000 pieces are tough.
We also have express books where you can sort of jump the line for the the wait, and if you see a book you've been looking for, it's there, and you can take it out for 2 weeks free.
So the idea is show up,
please,
be part of it. Don't sit in the sidelines.
Right.
You're invited if you need an invitation, and come and find out what's going on.
Everyone's
just
welcome.
Come and say hello and introduce yourself to me.
There you go. So
it's a great place.
I want to thank my guest, and I want to thank the viewers for having spent some time to find out what's going on with the library. And the invitation is participate. Don't be a no-show. Show up, be part of it, and then you won't be saying to yourself, why are they doing that? Well, you know why they're doing it, because you're part of it. Okay, so with that, you've been watching Bill's Bullpen, a production of Bourne TV.